Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar on the employee wellness experience. The presenter for the webinar will be the founder of Wellable, Nick Patel. We will provide you with a brief overview of Wellable at the end of the webinar, but in short, Wellable provides the technology and solutions to make traditional and continuous wellness challenges fun, effective, and easy to administer. I'm Ara Josephson, and I will be the moderator for the webinar today. I want to go over a few housekeeping items before we begin the webinar. First, we encourage everyone to ask questions throughout the presentation. You can send in questions via the chat feature at the bottom right of your GoToMeeting prompt. We will answer all of the questions at the end of the presentation, and I hope that we can have an interactive discussion. Second, if you would like to view the webinar again or share it with a colleague, we will be sending out links via email to a recording of the webinar and the presentation for you to download. Expect to see that email sometime tomorrow. Third, if you have any additional questions or want to review potential wellness strategies as it relates to your employer or a specific client, feel free to reply to the email that I send out tomorrow to schedule a free consultation. I will now pass it on to Nick to discuss the topic for the day.
Thanks, Ara, and thank you all for joining today. I hope you find this session helpful and enlightening. Before we dive into the topic, I think it would be helpful to talk about the foundation on which the information and suggestions we will share today are based. The concept of employee experience as a future of work in an area organizations need to be investing in today comes from an individual named Jacob Morgan. His work, which can be more thoroughly reviewed in his book, The Employee Experience Advantage, is based on research from more than 150 psychologists, economists, and business leaders around the world, and analysis of more than 250 diverse organizations. His goal was to determine the impact of employee experience has on successful companies. Through his research, he found that companies investing in employee experience outperformed those who did not across almost every major category of organizational performance. These companies, which are called experiential companies, are growing faster and paying more, as well as generating more revenue and profit relative to non-experiential companies. The exhibit on this slide embodies why I think so many of you have joined us today. Your organization, like most, wants to outperform its peers, and focusing on employee engagement alone is not enough to create a workforce that can lead to success. Before we discuss what employee experience is, it's important to review a brief history of how we got here. Decades ago, companies wanted to outperform their peers focused on utility. These companies made sure to provide employees with only the requisite tools to succeed, like a desk, a chair, a phone, maybe a tool. Companies eventually got smart and thought prudent investments were worth making if it increased productivity, which then became the focus of organizational success. These often manifested themselves in repeatable processes, in some cases technology. I liken the concept of utility and productivity-driven thinking for employee relations to operating a factory. Factories are linear. They have process, they're process-centric. They maintain the status quo. It's all about command, control, and delegation. As you can imagine, employees don't like to be thought of as cogs in a factory, so employers looking for the best talent needed to make adjustments. These adjustments, which manifested themselves as employee engagement programs, are now the new normal. We will discuss the challenges with employee engagement in a moment, but for the time being, let's just say that leading employers learned that employee engagement is not enough. This led Jacob Morgan to discover that leading employers morphed employee engagement into a new concept called employee experience. Employee experience is the collective environments that employees work in that shape their purpose in their employment. It's what creates a place where people want to show up for work rather than needing to. And that's the future of work. Employers that invest in these environments are the ones that will succeed in the future. Before we get into the environments that shape employee experience, it's important to understand why employee engagement, especially in the form that exists in today for most organizations, is insufficient. Employee engagement focuses on how employers can make employees happy so they can perform better at their jobs. That is noble in theory, but in practice is realized through annual surveys, short-term programs, and company mission statements. The life cycle depicted on the slide shows this well. Employees start at a company, they're engaged initially, they quickly become disengaged. Employers learn about their disengagement via a survey or town hall meeting. The employer responds with short-term programs that boost engagement temporarily. They end up running another short-term program once the next evaluation suggests engagement has dropped again to a low level. and they can keep this cycle up. It's unsustainable, and the gains are never permanent. On the other hand, employee experience is about investing in a long-term way in the three environments that shape all employees' experiences. These environments are the technological environment, the physical environment, and the cultural environment. The concept of investing in these environments is a framework. Each organization is unique, so the application of that framework will differ from organization to organization. The goal of this webinar is to present and discuss environments and variables within each environment, environments and variables within each environment that employers should focus on. Specifically, we will discuss the variables within each environment as it relates to employee wellness, which is just one element, albeit an important one, in the overall employee experience. The technological environment refers to the tools employees use to get their jobs done. It includes all technology, both hardware and software, that employees use in doing their jobs. This includes personal devices and software that employees may use during the day. This can be their personal smartphone or text messaging if employees are regularly using that tool as a way to communicate to each other. It comes as no surprise that the technological environment's importance in employee experience continues to increase with the importance of technology in our daily lives. The three variables that make up technological environments are the consumer-grade technology, technology being available to everyone, and technology focused on employee needs. Simply put, companies investing in consumer-grade technology are ensuring that employees in 2017 don't work with technology from 1987. For many employees, nothing is worse than having to constantly step down in technology from what they use personally to what they use professionally. Technology availability is about making sure that quality technology is not reserved for the select few within an organization, or no one at all. A good example of this not occurring is when an organization gives one division or a certain level employee one type of laptop, and everyone else gets another. A good way to potentially bridge the costs associated with technology availability is having a bring your own device policy. That is, if an employer is thinking about using a BlackBerry, for example, because they're cheaper, they can support other or better smartphones that employees use personally in the work environment, so that way they can use the consumer-grade technology and it's still available to everyone. Focusing on technology needs of employees means understanding their pain points and prioritizing those technologies first. As you make a move within your organization to bring quality technologies to everyone, that cannot be done immediately, and be able to prioritize that list and focus on what employees really need versus what are things employees want will allow you to progress to a quality employee experience quicker. So what does this mean from a wellness perspective? From a consumer-grade technology perspective, the impact of these variables as it relates to wellness is quite strong. Employees want wellness programs that incorporate wearable devices and mobile apps. We personally recommend using a consumer-grade technology strategy that incorporates a BYOD or bring your own device policy. Employees without devices still have access to quality technologies through consumer apps that are free to download. So if someone owns a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or a Garmin, that's great. They can incorporate that into their program. But to the extent they do not own that device and the employer has budget constraints that prevent them from buying or offering everyone a device, to the extent they own a smartphone, they can download a number of apps, including Apple Health and others that may be pre-installed on their phone that they can use in the program and still get consumer-grade technology as part of their program. We also recommend, in terms of availability, as this BYOD approach also allows groups to allow everyone to have that existing technology and also be able to use that as part of the program. And in terms of focusing on employee needs, employers can use surveys and other methods to determine what those needs are. And those needs are both from a technology perspective of what type of technology do they want to use, but also what type of needs they have from a wellness perspective. So is it around physical activity, is it nutrition, is it mental health or financial wellness? There are different technologies for each of these specific needs, and identifying what the wellness needs are as well as the technology needs allows the employer to deliver a quality technological environment and employee experience as it relates to wellness. The physical environment is what employees can see, touch, taste, and smell. It includes the physical structures in an office as well as physical perks like massage chairs or catered meals. Some of these variables associated with the physical environment focus on flexibility. Employees want the ability to have more than just a desk and chair as their options to work, as well as the ability and autonomy to not even come into the office as part of a fixed schedule. They also want the physical space to reflect the values of the organization. and that it's something they can be proud of, to the point that they may want to invite their friends and family to see and maybe visit their space. It's interesting to note that great companies that are experiential companies noted by Jacob Morgan, such as Google and Zappos, regularly have campus tours. They want to show off their campus. They want to show off their facility, and employees want their friends and family to be able to see those facilities because they're proud of it. They identify to that. When thinking about multiple workspace options as it relates to wellness, standing desks and active workstations, which are things like treadmill desks and biking desks, often come to mind. Studies show that standing desks and active workstations both have benefits, so they both have a place in the quality employee experience. But active workstations are the only option associated with wellness-specific benefits, according to the research. Employees want to work for companies that care for them, and they see the values of their organization in the physical spaces they work in. It's hard for an employee to feel cared for when an employer doesn't make it easy to make healthy decisions. A good example of this would be having only unhealthy snacks in the kitchen. So that way the employee has to maybe visit an outside vendor or something like that just to get healthy snacks. And then also employers should adopt modern work schedules that embrace the flexibility and autonomy that employees want. This allows employees to match their schedules with other priorities in life. To the extent that certain employees are caregivers or things like that, there are also very strict wellness benefits tied to these type of flexible work schedules. If the physical environment is what employees can see, touch, taste, and breathe, then the cultural environment is the one that they can feel. Culture stems from the values, the attitudes, the practices, and the mission of the organization. Corporate culture may be one of the most important environments because it can have a positive and negative impact on or effect on the organization. It can energize or drain a workforce, it can motivate or discourage employees, or it can empower or suffocate them. Culture can give employees a sense of purpose, have them feeling valued, have them feeling that they're being treated fairly, and making them feel like they're part of a team. Many of the items that contribute to culture do not cost money, which is why employees may associate such a great value to company culture. That is, an employee may think, if it costs so little or costs nothing to implement, why does my employer not do it? There's no real cost to treating employees fairly. There's no real cost to making them feel valued, to giving them a sense of purpose, for having them being part of a team. So if there's really no cost associated with it, there's no real budget hindrances that prevent them from doing it, which is why often employers and employees think about culture as such a critical element, maybe in excess or even more important than the technological or physical environment, although all three are really important. Despite employee wellness having a place in technological and physical environments, specifically, as you can see from the last line on this table, employee well-being is its own category and it's unlike many of the other cultural variables. Employee well-being typically has at least some costs associated with it, but these costs can certainly be managed. We'll talk about that a little bit later, about the management of expenses and things like that. But it's certainly, based on kind of Jacob Morgan's framework, he's identifying and calling out specifically employee well-being as a cultural element. Culture is a broad concept and spans a wide range of topics, so we picked out a few that have clear connections to employee wellness. First, employees want to feel valued, and by launching a wellness program for the right reasons, that is, launching a program that be showing that you care for their employees rather than making a strictly financial decision, employers can demonstrate they truly care for the health and well-being of their employees. Employees also want to feel like they're part of a team, and this concept goes beyond traditional professional sense. This is a unique opportunity for team-based wellness initiatives, whether it's challenges, walking groups, whatever it may be. It's an opportunity to make that employee or make a group of employees feel like they're part of a team outside the traditional kind of work environment. Wellness is also an opportunity for employers to expand the definition of personal growth and development through health literacy, as well as an opportunity to strengthen their brand with prospective and existing employees. There's a reason that some of the best wellness programs are widely publicized. Those companies, wisely so, see it as an opportunity to show that caring about employees is a critical part of their organizational DNA. The last thing I want to say about cultural environments as it pertains to employee wellness is that it's critical not to forget the under-the-radar wellness initiatives that often do not get much attention, like mental and financial wellness. Often when we think about employee wellness in the most traditional sense, it tends to gravitate toward physical wellness, in some cases perhaps nutrition, but we're certainly seeing a trend toward a broader, more holistic view. And when you're thinking about that employee experience, especially as it relates to wellness, you need to take a broad broader view incorporate what may be seen as under the radar or less commonly used elements of wellness. Early in the presentation, I talked about how utility and productivity-driven employee relation strategies had organizations viewing employees like factories. Now that we discussed the environments and variables of those environments and provide some context of how organizations should think about employee wellness as part of a broader employee experience strategy, I want to provide examples of how an experiential company, Adobe in this case, incorporates wellness into their employee experience. But before I do that, I want to talk about the opposite of a factory, which is how organizations should view themselves. Organizations should think about themselves less like a factory and more like a laboratory. Laboratories are the exact opposite of factories. They test, they experiment, they use data, they get feedback, they have people that provide training, encouragement, support. It's okay to fail and try again. In fact, it's encouraged to. If you think about an organization more as a laboratory and less like a factory, you'll be able to create beautiful experience for your employees. So when you hear about what we'll talk about with Adobe, know that their program wasn't created overnight. It was likely built in a laboratory that constantly tested, learned, and adjusted. They did it over years, they figured out what worked, they figured out what didn't, and they built an employee wellness experience specific to their culture and specific to their organization. So as you see this example, it's not meant to be a framework thinking Adobe is doing this, we should do this as well, but it should be, let's identify those three environments, the variables within those environments that Adobe is targeting, and rightfully so, and how do we create the wellness culture and the wellness experience that we want to have within our organization within that framework. With respect to the technological environment, Adobe has initiatives that address all the variables associated with this environment. Adobe provides employees with an opportunity to use consumer-grade technology by providing them with the subsidy to purchase a Fitbit. While this is not truly a fully BYOD program, which would require a broader range of consumer technologies, it's certainly a huge step in the right direction. What we would encourage Adobe to do, rather than limiting just to Fitbit, which may be great for 50% or maybe more of their organization, is by creating a program that's device agnostic, both from an integration perspective and also from a subsidy perspective here. So working with a partner that allows them to, that employee to use the subsidy to purchase a Fitbit, if that makes sense from them, and that's the consumer grade technology they want to use, but also provide them the opportunity to maybe buy a Garmin device, a Nokia or Withings device. There are a lot of great technologies out there. Fitbit doesn't have a monopoly on great wearable devices, so really broadening that spectrum would allow them to improve on this program. But again, we're working in the laboratory, and this is things where they can constantly improve on. Adobe can also make their program makes their program available to all employees, not just health plan members. It's hard for an organization to show that they care about all employees by only offering wellness benefits to health plan members. We see this often where the health plan perhaps offers a free program or they choose to purchase something from the health plan. From our perspective, this signals that the wellness program is more about managing healthcare costs and not about caring for our employees. And when we think about the variables that we saw across all three environments, and here obviously within the technological environment, it's important that employees feel valued, it's important that they feel cared for, and by offering wellness benefits just to a select group of employees or offering only a subset of benefits to a subset of employees, I think the employer signals to employees that it's not all about caring for them. That's not the ultimate goal, or that's not the priority number one or the only goal for which they're launching the program. Fortunately, Adobe, which is why they're such a great experiential company, makes this program available to everyone. Also, by creating a $360 wellness dollar fund for each employee, Adobe allows them to purchase and participate in what they value and need most. We talked about employee needs and taking surveys, but they've kind of decentralized this approach. They've offered wellness credits or wellness dollars to every employee, and that employee is in a position to make the best decision about what makes the most sense for them. It could be technology oriented, so Adobe allows the $360 to cover the portion of the Fitbit device that's not covered by the subsidy. If that's what they want to do, they can invest in experience like races, classes, massages, they can get personal trainers, whatever makes the most sense for them in terms of the program, they can do that, and by virtue of that, they're allowing them to focus on the employee needs. Adobe does an equally great job in architecting their physical environment to promote a quality employee wellness experience. The company provides multiple workspace options, including standing desks and active workstations. So depending on the employee for a single day or what they specifically like, they can have multiple options in terms of finding a workspace that allows them to be productive, allows them to feel like they're being healthy in their lives, and allows them to deliver the best work performance for Adobe. Adobe also decentralizes the employee-manager relations to support autonomy and flexibility at the micro level. I particularly love this concept as it allows the decision to be made on a case-by-case basis. And with quality managers in place, each employee will be able to create the best work environment for themselves. So in this scenario, a manager could work with one employee, and for them, having a very flexible schedule where they work from home mostly or come in periodically, whatever it may be, that could be great, but the next employee could be the exact opposite. That employee prefers a fixed schedule. They want to be in from 9 to 5, and they want their manager to be available during certain periods. And on a case-by-case basis, each employee is getting the flexibility and the autonomy and the things they need to have a great quality wellness experience within the physical environment. Adobe also offers extended leave for people getting back into work so they can ease back in. This is most commonly seen in the paternity and maternity benefits. And last but not least, a quick walk through Adobe's office will show you that they truly value employee wellness. From on-site gyms to multiple class options to easily available healthy meal options, the company shows that they really care, which is why, like Zappos and like Google, you can go tour the Adobe facility in Silicon Valley. They want to show it off, they want to use it to build their brand, and they want to make sure that employees feel proud of it, which is why they invest in it. One of the cool things I like about Adobe, for those larger employers that have catered lunch or an on-site cafeteria, they have a program called the Adobe Well Punch Card, which allows, although they offer a number of options to eat, they have many healthy options. To the extent that employees are eating healthy lunch, they get a punch card and can earn rewards for doing so. We've already talked about the number of technological and cultural variables, or physical variables, that Adobe is invested in to promote wellness, but nothing signifies their overall strategy and commitment to their program more than their 6 E's of wellness: eat, exercise, experience, which I think is interesting, engage, enlighten, and empower. They clearly are taking a broad approach and a holistic strategy that reinforces their brand to prospective and existing employees by demonstrating the value they place on their talent. If you go through a thorough review of their actual program, it would take a whole webinar to go through. They're doing so many different elements. As you see at the top of the slide, they're giving educational credits to employees to create personal skills. Those can be used also to improve their health knowledge. But they're investing heavily in their wellness program across all spectrums. They have a strong brand and perception for that, and their employees feel valued, which is why they're able to produce those quality results that experiential companies can deliver. Rather than tell you about what Wellable offers, I want to talk to you about Wellable's wellness philosophy. It probably comes as no surprise that we believe in creating great employee experiences across all 3 environments: technological, physical, and cultural. With that belief as the foundation of how we architect our solutions, we create long-term strategies for our clients to achieve success in one critical element of their employee wellness experience, or employee experience. As Ara noted earlier, we'll be following up with all attendees with a video recording and link to this presentation. Feel free to respond to that email requesting an overview of how we can help you create a quality wellness experience for your employees. I'll pass it back to Ara for now for questions. In the meantime, feel free to continue to send questions through the chat feature at the bottom right of your GoToMeeting prompt.
All right, thank you, Nick. So we got a few questions here. The first one is relating to budget management in relation to the employee experience. The question is, how would you suggest an employer best manage the increased cost of investing in employee experience?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think if you actually revisit, I'll go back to the slides here really quickly, but when you go through the various variables, whether it's the cultural environment slide or the technological environment slide or the physical environment slide, we put the cost level there. This is something from Jacob Morgan's book as well. He talks about free, some cost, minimal cost, high cost. I think you'll notice a lot of them are minimal and free. I'm just looking at the cultural variable slide here. A number of things are free. So as you think, as I mentioned before, Adobe and their employee wellness experience and their overall employee experience wasn't created overnight. It took a lot of time. They invested, they iterated, they improved. As they showed value from the employee wellness experience or the employee experience, they're able to garner more dollars from their employer to want to be able to invest in these type of things. So I would say for really budget-constrained organizations, think about the free things you can do. And there are a number of them, both on the wellness side and the broader side. Also, I wouldn't be afraid to actually look at the slide about why people are investing in employee wellness, right? So this Jacob Morgan's book evaluated 250 different organizations, and you kind of see the stats there, right? So if you're investing in your employee wellness experience or your overall employee experience, presumably you should have higher revenue, greater profit, higher revenue per employee, greater profit for employees. These greater profits and things are despite or reflect the increased cost they invest. So building a case around that, starting small where the areas are free, building a case that you're improving the wellness or employee experience and driving real bottom line and top line results from it to get more capital to eventually do the things like the Fitbit subsidies that do require a little bit more capital.
All right, on to the next one. How much should employers spend per employee for a robust and successful wellness program?
That varies heavily, so there's not really a one-size answer. The one thing I'll say up front, what I always think is the most expensive thing in an employee wellness program typically falls in two things. One is services like biometric screenings, and then rewards, so incentives and rewards to your employees in terms of paying out things to give them encourage them to participate. On the former biometric screenings, we blog about this a lot. We actually have an ebook on our website, so you can download it for free. We talk about that not being a great investment for employees. So I think when you think about the cost, it varies heavily, but we're fortunate in the sense that the most expensive things tend to be things that are not necessarily good for the employee, it's not good for the organization, and certainly at the very least, it doesn't improve the employee wellness experience. No one wakes up in the morning thinking, I'm so glad that I'm having on-site biometric screenings today, it's going to be a phenomenal day for me at work. That's not something that improves employee experience. Groups that tend to do that tend to have programs that employees see as driven by financial reasons and not driven by trying to improve the employee experience. So by virtue of removing certain things that are costly, you can already begin to trim and focus on the more reasonable costs. And then in terms of rewards, which is also a huge cost, there are a number of different options out there. Wellable specifically works with an organization called Sweet Break. We're able to deliver $1,000 in travel or rewards credits that people can use for $24 per employee per year. That's certainly expensive. It's often a case that's limiting to many people's budgets, but the alternative would be giving out $500 in cash to each employee, potentially to launch a program. So by no means do you have to do that. So for a low cost, you can find ways to deliver really, really powerful financial rewards to your employees and encourage them to participate. And one of the things I love so much about Sweet Break specifically is that the reward itself can be used for travel. And we all know about the benefits, specifically wellness benefits of traveling, of detaching from work. So in a unique way, the real wellness incentive there is driving individuals to do another thing that will improve their wellness goals.
All right, so the next question is definitely more applicable for larger organizations. What are some of the ways to shape the employee experience for those working remotely or those that work part-time?
Yeah, another great question. I mean, when you think about the three environments, the technological, the physical, and the cultural, Jacob Morgan talks about them as all being equal. But, I think each organization is unique and each organization is different. The benefit about the technological environment is that it allows you to deliver a wellness program or a wellness experience to a very dispersed or distributed workforce, whether it's multiple offices or lots of remote employees. And so for groups that have a large number of remote employees, the technological environment and how it applies and how those variables are applicable to a great employee wellness experience, that's where I would focus on. I think the groups that have great physical environments, that's great for those organizations that have a big headquarters and whatnot. But if you're not in the headquarters, the physical environment has a lower value to you. I certainly think it's a big value because you will visit the office, you will hear stories about how great the office is, which makes you proud to be part of the organization. But certainly it begins to shift being a technological investment or thinking about the technological environment and the variables associated with it as really the kind of focus of where you can really kind of hone in on in terms of delivering a quality employee wellness experience.
All right, so the next question is in relation to engagement and how that does not equal experience. Is the goal to break the employee engagement cycle or to find ways to work within that known environment?
Yeah, so I want to pull another slide up here. So this is the cycle this question is referring to. Just as a recap, it's employees start engaged, they become disengaged, the employer finds out that they're disengaged, they run a short-term program, they become engaged, they become not disengaged, they run another program. And it's just a vicious cycle where you're constantly running these short-term adrenaline shots to keep employees engaged. It's not sustainable, it's less meaningful, and what I would say is not so much about breaking the cycle, but just moving away from it. And that may be breaking. I guess it could be semantics here, but I think what it really is saying this is a short-term solution of constantly piecemealing or putting band-aids on the problem and constantly trying to keep your engagement score up in these short-term elements as opposed to the employee wellness experience or the overall employee experience is really thinking long-term, thinking critical, really building at the foundational level and having that built up, right? So when people think about employee engagement, rarely do they get into the granularity of thinking of what are the specific variables I need to target, right? And things like that. And so I don't know if it's breaking, but I think it's really just shifting the paradigm from the engagement paradigm to the experience paradigm, which is more long-term in nature, it's more foundational in nature, and it's really meant, as most people have seen, there's tons of studies out there saying engaged employees tend to be better employees. Groups, organizations with high engagement scores tend to outperform groups that aren't. I don't know if we're doubting that research. We're just saying there's a greater impact you can have from the employee wellness experience perspective. And often groups who are delivering high employee experiences tend to also be engaged just in a more sustainable way.
All right, the next question is about the physical environments. What resources exist to address potential design changes to have the physical space reflect the values of the organization?
Yeah, so there's a number of different things here, right? Obviously, if you're an organization moving offices or you have a large budget and you want to hire an architect, there are all these things you can do, right? From create open workspaces to adding new workstations and things like that. I think if you're looking to do this in a more economical way and you're not doing a whole new build out, because if you want to do that, there's organizations that are thinking about that broader, and you can certainly think about the variables of how you would do that. It's not hard to rearrange your floor plan a little bit. It's not hard to find a space in your office that's a shared treadmill desk. A long time ago when Wellable was working, we used to work out of the PayPal office. We were part of the PayPal incubator. And I remember they had a very large office here in Boston, and we worked out that space. And they had 2 treadmill desks set up next to the window with a gorgeous view of, kind of Boston, the Greenway. And all you did was come up with a pen and paper. People came in every day and wrote their name saying, I want the 2:30 to 3 o'clock time frame. And the treadmill desk was shared. That cost just distributed across all the employees. It was always booked. So there are ways for you to kind of fit those small things in a kind of very economical way and make small improvements. And the other thing I would say is you'd be surprised when we have groups do something as simple as move the printer across to the other side of the office. Maybe the initial reactions, employees will complain because they have to walk farther. We actually see the exact opposite. When you communicate appropriately that, hey, we're going to move it across the office, not because we want to, make you walk further and things like that in a very kind of negative sense, is that we want you to be away from your desk a little bit longer. We want you to get those extra steps, albeit small, each time you go to the printer and things like that. And when we see organizations do small things like that are our clients, we hear that they're getting an incredible amount of feedback and all positive in terms of those small changes. And again, very easy to do, the very kind of small things to make around.
All right, so that's it for all the questions. I'm going to thank you guys for joining us today. We hope that you found the presentation informative. Just as a reminder, we will be sending out a copy of the slides seen here for you all tomorrow. If you have any specific questions regarding your employer, please reach out for a free consultation by either going to wellable.co or just reply to the email that I will send to you containing the presentation slides. That's it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.